I don't know what's more confusing, learning astrology or just being a human. Moonday Musings is here to help with that. A weekly, no bullshit guide for the upcoming cosmic forecast and how you can actually use this in your real life. Hi, neighbor. Happy Monday, my friend. Happy Moonday, and welcome to another episode of Moonday Musings. If this is your first time here in our little witchy neighborhood, hi, I'm Danny. I'm that witch next door. I'm going to be your host. I'll be your guide, your mentor, your spiritual bestie, if you will, in all things modern witchcraft and cosmic living. And Moonday Musings is all about kind of streamlining, simplifying, applying the main highlights of the astrological forecast for the week into your real life. We are all about real magic for your real life around these parts. And we just came out of our full moon in Aquarius weekend. So checking in, how are we doing? How are you, my friend? How are you? How did it go? How did it feel leading up to this weekend? How did this weekend go for you? And how are you feeling now post this particular full moon? I want to kind of do these lunar check-ins with you here on the podcast. In that witch school, my monthly membership, we get together twice a month at the new moon and the full moon each month, and we do some shadow work with each other that I guide us through in our school-wide shadow work group. And I want to just at least throw a little bit of that magic your way here on that witch podcast, here in our neighborhood, in the form of a little bit of a lunar check-in. So we just had our full moon over this weekend, and this week we will have our last quarter moon in this lunar cycle. And I'm here to ask you, to ask yourself, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Start paying attention to this, even if it's just while we're here hanging out with each other. Maybe if you feel inclined, you'll jot it down somewhere in a notebook or a journal. Maybe just make note of it in your phone, in your notes app, or on your calendar somewhere. But make a little notation, maybe, even if it's just in the form of like a couple emojis or a couple keywords. How you doing? This is something that I want to offer to you so that we start building a little bit of data together, so that over time you have started to do a couple of things. Regular, consistent check-ins with yourself and comparing that to or reflecting about that through a lunar perspective. Also, this is going to help you learn more about how astrology shows up for you uniquely, because I promise you, as somebody who, finally over time developed the habit of notating regularly, where's the moon, what phase is it in, what sign is it in, what day of the week is it, how am I doing, how am I feeling? I make note of that somewhere. For me, it's in every single journal I have. And I have a lot of journals, and they all have different purposes. But when I write in any of them, I make note of where we're at in the lunar cycle, aka what phase the moon is in, what sign the moon is in, the date, obviously, and the day of the week. I also like to write the time down because I have found that I love knowing whether it was day or night that I wrote that down. But I promise you, as you flip back, even if you're not reading word for word all the things that you wrote down, you'll get the general idea of what it was that you do write down. And I promise you, again, as a person who finally regularly has done this enough over several years now, that when you do these flip backs, you really do have these full circle connective moments of, isn't it funny? That's always on a Mars day. That's always on a Tuesday when I write. in that way. How interesting. Huh? Isn't it interesting that it just so happens the last 3 times I reached for my journal, it was a quarter moon? Isn't it like there's these little things, and you'll pull back the layers on that a little bit. Well, what is the last quarter moon associated with? What is that zodiac sign or that planet associated with? And you'll make these beautiful, simple, yet massively profound connections for yourself. So really, really lovely way to just add a layer of meaning into your just regular day-to-day life. So I want to do these little lunar check-ins with you each week. We just came out of a full moon. We are coming up to our last quarter moon. How are you doing? Write it down somewhere. Make note of where the moon is when you do that. And move on from that journal entry. You don't have to do anything with it after that. I mean, unless you want to, of course. But it's really about just marking it down. So I'll check back in with you next week. We talked a lot about the full moon last week on Moonday. If you need a little refresher about what this full moon in Aquarius energy was like, some of the bigger picture astrological themes associated with it and our cosmic energy for the month of August, make sure that you go back and re-listen or listen to the last episode, which is our cosmic monthly overview. And this week, as we get ready to head into the last quarter moon, last quarter is when we start doing some shedding and letting go, because we are preparing for a new moon and a new lunar cycle. We are preparing to plant some seeds, to set some intentions. So the last quarter phase all the way up until the new moon phase is very associated with letting go, final releases, banishing, burial, moving on from. Very 8 of Cups energy, actually, for all my tarot lovers out there. This is a lot of taking stock and only keeping what is necessary. Kind of doing a little bit of Marie Kondo style on your life, like what is still sparking joy and what is not, and whatever's not, thank you and goodbye and release kind of energy, okay? Do you know how much of my house witchcraft was influenced by tidying up with Marie Kondo? Oh my God. What a house witch. What an absolute house witch. Okay, so that is total last quarter moon energy. This last quarter moon happens to be in Taurus as well, which kind of adds to these hearth and home vibes as well. So this isn't a terrible time for like actually getting rid of some stuff in the house as well. We talked about last week on Moonday that we are starting to enter into late summer. We are starting to cross over the bridge from midsummer into late summer. So over these next several weeks, there is plenty of benefit to come from saying goodbye and letting go, doing some purging, doing some cleansing. It will feel nice. It will, if you follow the intuitive nudge of, I feel like it's time to let this go, what's on the other side of that is a really, really nice, cleaner feeling. So take that into your quarter moon energy this week. And again, pair that or let it be influenced by your lunar check-in this week and how you're doing post full moon. Knowing what you know now, if you think about where you were last week, pre-full moon, and whatever has transpired for you since then, what would you like to send into the lunar portal and say goodbye with our last quarter moon as we make our way to our new moon in Virgo next week? Yep, next week. Which we will talk about in more detail at that time. For now, last quarter moon, what are we shedding? What are we releasing? What are we even straight up banishing? Do some fucking banishing. Are you kidding me? Get rid of some shit. This can be a letting go of shit, and this can be a get rid of some shit time, all right? Also, yippee, Mercury does station direct today, I believe. Yes. No, sorry. That's Ceres. Where am I? Yes, it does today. Thanks. Mercury has officially stationed direct by the time you're listening to this, because it is happening Monday today, the 11th of August at 3:29 a.m. Eastern time. Mercury stays in its post-retrograde shadow period until August 25th. All that means, the post-retrograde shadow period, is it's all the distance that Mercury covered when it went back in retrograde, and it has to recover all of that ground as it moves forward. It exits the shadow period when it gets to the point it very, very, very first stationed retrograde. And so the short version of this is that the month of August can feel, in general, a little Mercury retrograde-y. And so this is a good time for being patient with yourself and giving yourself some grace for little mistakes and mishaps, and offering that to your fellow human wherever you can. Your kids, your siblings, your partners, your parents, your coworkers, your friends. The little mistakes, the little mishaps, the miscommunications, these are all things to give a little bit of grace for. It's just because Mercury stations direct today, it doesn't just instantly turn into, oh, things are super easy. There will probably be a few more things throughout the rest of this month, over the next couple of weeks. So just offer a little bit of extra patience and a little bit of extra wiggle room wherever you can, my friend. Also, fun little last highlight astrologically I wanted to point out this week is a beautiful conjunction between Venus in Cancer and Jupiter in Cancer. This is happening at 14 degrees Cancer. So you can look at your birth chart and look at smack dab in the middle of Cancer energy. And that is about where this aspect between Venus and Jupiter will be taking place. These are two planets that, when they come together, and I would say especially in Cancer, I think that we can see some really optimistic, lighthearted, positive experiences from this aspect. This is a nice little astrological dose of medicine amidst a massive time of growth and disruption, and in a lot of ways, destruction. Venus and Jupiter forming their conjunction in Cancer really amplifies a point that I started making last week about the power of repair. And this is actually a nice little piggyback off of talking about giving a little extra room for patience and grace and gentleness as we finish out Mercury retrograde. I think that Venus and Jupiter in Cancer can really add to this concept and reinforce this idea that like a little bit of understanding can not just go a long way, like a little bit of understanding can save lives sometimes. Think about those like split second impulse-driven moments of rage or impatience, right? These impulses that get followed through on in the blink of an eye without even thinking about it. And some of the horrible things that have come right after those moments. This is what I mean by a little bit of understanding and like a little bit of patience can sometimes be an absolute like make or breaker. This could save a day, this could save a life, honestly. And I think that it's so easy to like talk about how big and heavy some of like the hard aspects are in astrology. Like when we see some of this intense astrological energy we talked about associated with this full moon and beyond that we talked about last week. And then I think that we get these really harmonious, these very optimistic transits or aspects, and we can glaze over them a little bit. And especially in the astrological community, maybe I should even say especially in the witch community, we can get a little bit hung up on make sure you manifest. This is a really optimistic time. Like make sure you do spell work and like call in something that you want. I would say that there is nothing wrong with that. Let me just say that first. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think an even bigger and potentially even more powerful point can be made when we expand that way further than you know, the next thing that you're manifesting. Where are your opportunities for generosity, and how are you responding during those times? How are you embracing your generosity? How are you exercising your charity? How are you spreading love and joy and cheer? How are you uplifting? How are you supporting? I think that these are some of the simplest to do and singularly powerful things that we can put into motion. And I don't think that we always like mean to not do them. I think that this is where so much of what we talked about last week is just going to keep trickling into the rest of the Moondays episodes. But we talked last week a lot about how helpful the micro to macro conversation and concept can be. And this is a really good application for that. I think it's just easy to get really caught up in our micro when it comes to our magic, when it comes to our manifestation, and we hear like this powerful full moon is coming up, or we hear about this really cool, beautiful astrological positive aspect of Jupiter and Venus coming together in Cancer, and what can we call in? And I implore you to ask what you can share. I think it's okay to call in too, but will you also ask of the universe, what is it that I can share right now? I'm excited about this. There's an energy to this transit that is kind of flying under the radar and like underratedly magical is what I would say. So take that positive inspiration in. Get ready in a moment for our card reading, and let's take a quick moment to thank today's episode sponsor, which is Podzilla Productions. Podzilla Productions is the company that my husband Jared started. He is a podcast editor and producer. He's been mixing, producing, working with audio for well over 17 years. I can personally attest to he is a perfectionist who believes fundamentally in offering top quality professional editing and producing services, even if not especially to those more beginner, intermediate podcast hosts who believe in what they're doing. They're passionate about their content and their show, but maybe they're not monetizing their show yet. Maybe they're not making as much from their content creation as some of the really big podcast names out there. You don't have to spend thousands or hundreds of dollars in order to get top quality professional sounding audio. Podzilla is exactly why That Witch podcast has always had such crisp, clean, beautiful sounding audio no matter where you listen. Jared is a well of information when it comes to expert, experienced editing, and also making sure you feel supported and set up in the equipment that you use, any software that you use. You have somebody that you can ask these technological or audio questions to. You will be able to get back to focusing on what you do best instead of spending and wasting hours of time trying to teach yourself how to DIY edit. And this is what stacks up against you and makes it harder and harder to keep up with consistently releasing your podcast. You will be able to give that responsibility to somebody way faster, way more experienced than you, and get back to what you love doing the most, what you are the best at, which is creating the content that you love and that you're passionate about for your podcast. Don't hesitate to reach out, ask Jared for a consult, to get a quote for what you need. Again, if you have questions on equipment, software, he is there for you. You can go to podzillaproductions.com. You can also go to the show notes below and reach out to Jared directly. And with that, let's get back to the show, my friends. So, as we prepare for our tarot reading today, we're going to set that aside. That's in. There was one card face up in the deck. I'll let you know what that is in a second. But first, I want you to kind of like roll out your shoulders, roll out your neck. If you need to adjust where and how you've been sitting, just shift positions a little bit. Whether you are standing, walking, sitting, wherever, however you are, use your body to release is the word that came to me, but it's not what I meant to say. To release any excess energy right now, but also to just reset and refresh your space in and around you. You can even take a few nice deep breaths. You could even pause this episode right here and make those breaths as long and luxurious as you need them to be. And whenever you're ready, you can open yourself up to any insight, any guidance, any messages you may be needing or seeking at this time. Oh, this is so interesting. There's a lot of like childlike energy here. So, which is funny because I felt really, really called to grabbing the Everyday Witch Tarot today. Oops, sorry, Mike. I don't use this deck on the show a lot. I have this full-size deck, and I also bought the miniature version for my daughter. So this is kind of a mother-daughter deck in our household. It is inspired by the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but there is definitely a very, very playful aspect to this deck, and the energy of it is just perfect for introducing my child to, who was so interested in tarot and was always asking to look at my cards. And so this is a wonderful introductory deck for that. They also make children's decks, of course, that are wonderful out there, but this was what I felt called to. So keep all of that in mind. It's really interesting. I felt super called to grabbing this particular deck for this episode. And then on top of it, I feel like the cards that we got are very childlike in nature. So which order do you want to know that they came in first? The card that was face up while I was shuffling that I noticed that I set aside was Six of Cups. Next, the card that I intuitively chose after I was shuffling was Page of Wands. Do you notice anything? similar about these cards. The same figure is in both cards, which is super interesting. This is not a consistent figure in every single card. This character only appears on some cards. And one of these is a wands, and one of these is a cup. So again, it's not even exclusive to one suit or another, but there is an energy about that character that is captured in the meaning of these cards. And this is like an adolescent, right? In the Six of Cups, we've got an actual child, which makes sense. The Six of Cups is very associated with childhood and the past and nostalgia, youth in general. But the other figure, who's a little bit older than a child, is kind of can be interpreted anywhere from teenager to adolescent, like I said, like young 20s, which is super, super interesting. And I think that this is intended to be a male figure, possibly. I always look at this character in a non-binary sense and would refer to them as they, them, and they just really embody that childhood is behind me. I'm definitely not a child anymore. And I'm definitely not a full-grown adult yet either. And this energy, I think, is really coming to play today because it's a big reminder of that exact energy and state of mind that is ever present in all of us, no matter how old you are, no matter what you've been through. Each of these archetypes live within us. We have an inner child. We have an inner teenager. We have an inner adolescent. This energy is within us. Just like when we're children, we have a little inner adult too. We have all these archetypes within us. And this and all the pages in the tarot, to me, is always a reminder that, like, my friend, you are learning right now. Be patient with the process. Know that there is much that you've learned and you've seen. Knowing that we are past childhood indicates some form of loss of innocence here. We are beyond the innocence of childhood. We've crossed some sort of threshold beyond that now. And there's almost fool energy here. There's naivety here. There's not fully knowing the whole story and what an experience can bring. And I think that the Page of Wands and the Six of Cups coming together in this reading is kind of a foot in the door of the past and a foot in the door to the future. And possibly a liminal space that we're kind of straddling right now, which makes so much sense with Mercury retrograde technically ending, but still being in this post-retrograde shadow period, still being in this reflective space. We talked about this a few Mondays ago, but we're going to have some big retrograde energy for the end of the year, for sure. So it makes sense why we've got a foot in the door of the past and we're reflecting, we're feeling nostalgic, we're looking back on. To me, this is like looking back into a time that felt safe. And this comes with a lot of vulnerability. The card with our foot in the door to the future, our Page of Wands, this young adventurer, this young passionate who is really fueled by dreams and passions at this point. The momentum and motivation here come from creativity and inspiration, but not a lot of experience yet. the world and this adventure and this quest is going to provide a lot of that experience. And when we're in this vulnerable state, when we are amidst a new level, a new chapter that's super unfamiliar to us, but we know we're driven there by dreams and passion and meaning and purpose, there can definitely be this Six of Cups energy of longing for a safe, familiar time. And maybe a nice way to look at this reading is creating some safety rituals, building some safety and padding for your nervous system through some healthy, nostalgic reflection, kind of time travel for yourself that really bolster you up and prepare you and keep you motivated and moving forward on the path as this Page of Wands. My God, this was such a good one. No wonder we were so called to the Everyday Witch Tarot. What a story was offered to us this week. I love this so much. Thank you, neighbor, for spending your moon day with me. Thank you for your time today and every day. It is an honor to sit in witchy energy and community with you, my friend. So don't forget to do your lunar check-in. Check in with yourself. How are you doing? Think about how that was last week compared to this week, and then let it go. And I'll see you on the flip side. I'll see you very soon for our next episode here on That Witch Podcast. And until then, my friend, make sure that you stay safe, you have fun, and of course, stay magical out there, my friend. What is That Witch School? That Witch School is my magical monthly membership that combines safe, welcoming, nurturing community with quality, ethical witchcraft and astrology education. This is like Patreon meets social media, but better. We have monthly calls hosted and guided by myself, as well as multiple instructors within our school. An incredibly beautiful and supportive community of like-minded witches, all built from the neighbors within our neighborhood right here. Plus, there is a just astounding library of resources and content that is always growing, and so much more. You can go back and listen to my episode on the podcast called Welcome to That Witch School 2025 for all kinds of details and information on the membership, the different plans you can subscribe for, pricing, and frequently asked questions, everything that you need to know. Or you can always send me a direct message or email if you ever have any questions. You can get my contact information in the show notes below. And when you're ready to join us, you can go to thatwitchschool.com and find the plan that works for you and join our magical community today.